finally got it on. I think we got to work
Hey,
in this
well, we're
more
on.
freaking bugs
Got,
in the top of our
but of course,
All
we always got it on here.
right. Spreaker's on. Spreaker's on.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. Shout out to the Spreaker crowd out there, as well as, of course, the Network Radio crowd. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
San Carlos Apache Reservation in Arizona, and we also have a gentleman in beautiful sunny London.
Yeah.
London?
Sunny
Yeah.
London. I don't know if it's so sunny this time of year, but yeah, we got them out there. Okay. Skype update. I don't know. Anyway, yes. Greetings, salutations, all that good stuff out there. It's Saturday night roundtable tomorrow. Of course, Kelly, our boy girl, coming to us live from Manhattan. Yeah. Okay.
What the hell's the difference?
That's cold. It's below 20. It's in the, it's even below 10. So yeah, it's cold.
It's
I would say
it's
here,
frostbite. It's frostbite hypothermia weather. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, up here in the Great White North, of course, it's minus 19 below zero tonight. So that's probably going to be it. I hope as low as it gets. But 19 below and very cold. Was out there about 2 hours ago, and I said, "Whoa, man, this is pretty nippy out here today." But yeah, so we're bundled up inside tonight, and bringing this. I got to get a chat too, so give me a second or two to get in the chat room, but I'll get there.
Yeah, I would be in the chat room, but I'm incapable of doing two things at once.
Yes,
like eating and talking,
yeah.
Eating, drinking, and breathing at the same time. It just doesn't.
Yeah,
work.
it just doesn't work. So yeah, that's how it works. Man, oh man, let me get into the chat. Let's see what's going there. Earlier tonight, of course, Justice Scalia
passed away. He passed away earlier today.
Yeah.
And he actually passed away last night in his sleep. From what I've heard, and
yeah, we're not sure if the pillow
CNN
might.
played the Piers Morgan interview with Scalia, and it was very interesting. Yes, Citizens United is not a good thing, but he also defended the burning of the flag.
Okay.
As an expression of free speech.
Yes,
and he made the statement, which makes sense, except where money comes in, that there are different forms of speech that do not necessarily take the form of words.
Oh, okay.
So you have symbolic. Well, so you have symbolic acts. You have symbolic acts.
Yes.
Like the burning of the flags, marches, protests, riots. I don't think he would go that far and say riots, but it can be an expression of speech because you can get so angry, so frustrated that your only action is to break things.
There you go.
But
indeed.
It was very interesting also listening to him because it seemed like that he may not have actually agreed with some of the things that he either defended or disagreed in, but he was looking at the law rather than his ideologies or feelings.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, he's
that I believe is what he meant by originalist. There are those conservatives that meant that he wanted to go back to what the founding fathers wrote, and that was it. He was simply talking about the law, not putting his ideology. So he may personally abhor Roe v. Wade, but he would look at the law and say, I have to support this because it's, you know, but he, so it's a very interesting, um, complex individual listening to this interview, which I didn't listen to or watch back in 2012 when it was recorded. Um, and hearing everybody on both sides of the aisle praising him, and then there's that, his friendship with Ruth Bader Ginsburg and all of that. It's a very he was a very
Yeah, that's
complex
different. You
he
don't
was a
really
very
suspect,
complex human
you know,
being.
you don't suspect that him and
Yeah,
Ginsburg would be,
yeah. But
chumps and buddies. Yeah,
I think good jurists are complex human beings, where they
right.
look at the law and they decide the law on the basis of the law without letting their ideologies get in the way. Which is why I also believe so many conservatives are madder than hell at Roberts, because he looks at the law. He may disagree with the law personally or ideologically, but he still has to support the law because it's the law.
There you go. That's how that works. Yeah, I
That
try.
actually makes
Well,
him that
uh,
a conservative, but more of a real conservative in the old pre Reagan, Nixon Eisenhower sort of conservative,
right, right.
where you could moderate your conservatism and be pragmatic.
There you go. Yep, indeed.
Although
Let's
the interesting thing is that about what's going on right now in the GOP is that the money isn't helping anybody. Remember, I said that the Cooks didn't really need the federal government to do anything. They haven't put any money behind any of the candidates,
right.
and there's
Uh,
buyer's remorse from those that put money into the Bush campaign.
yeah, or the Mittens campaign back a couple of years ago too. Yeah. So
But I
yeah,
think Romney, I think, was also mostly self-funding himself because
yeah,
he
probably.
has,
There's a lot of that.
but without saying
He had
anything
a
about
lot
it.
of Bain capital, so I mean, yeah, he had a lot of money to work with. No problem. But yeah, there was some buyer's remorse, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I loved Rubio's comment to Cruz saying, "You don't even speak Spanish." So how do you just like love it?
Yeah.
And so
No,
I've
none of
started
that.
decided that from for the rest of this time, he will be Rafael Felito Cruz.
Yeah. Okay.
We
That'll work.
need to
That'll
bring
work.
back his, the fact he's like Pierce Jindal. I can understand, wanting to Americanize your name, but there comes a point where you are actively embarrassed by your heritage.
There you go. Yeah.
And the mere fact that Rafael wants to be known as Ted means he is embarrassed by his Hispanic heritage.
Yeah.
Or else he would, if he wasn't, he'd say, "Call me Ralph,"
It's a
or
possibility.
"Call me
Yeah.
Rafe." Rafael.
Yeah. There you
Raphael's
go.
a perfectly good name.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that at all. You're right. I don't quite get it. You know, I
And
guess I don't
Felito
know.
makes him sound like he's a member of organized crime.
Right.
Ebelito, which is a diminutive, which may also explain why he wants to be called Ted, because Felito could be a diminutive of Rafael.
Exactly. Exactly.
Fialito, yeah, Felito, little feel.
Something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like
Cruz, who has an actual punchable face.
right.
And also for all of you out there, I knew Al Lewis, I knew Grandpa Munster, and let me tell you, he would be thoroughly offended at the comparisons, at the facial comparisons between him and Cruz. For
Uh,
one thing, for one thing, Grandpa was an absolute progressive commie liberal. He and his wife were very very active here in New York in prisoners' rights.
right.
Very active in that, and also when he had his restaurant, it was like a lot of fun to go to.
I bet.
Oh, it was great. It was
Yeah.
great.
Kind of. Yeah, anytime you have that kind of a character having a restaurant, it can't be
Well,
all bad at all.
also he had a PhD. He had a doctorate in child psychology.
Ah, okay,
He was an actual doctor. He was Dr. Al Lewis.
there you go.
And I've told this story before, but when I asked him, this is how we struck up the friendship, is that I asked him why he got the degree in child psychology. And his response was so I could handle directors,
Ah, there you go.
which
Yeah,
makes a lot of sense.
yeah, I like
He
that
was a
line.
great guy.
That's a
He
great
was a
line.
great guy. He was really nice. He was really wonderful to
Yeah, and I only really
to
know him
hang
from
out
that
with.
role, but I'm
Yeah,
sure he played a lot of different roles over the years. But
yeah.
the one, of course, that stands out is that one there,
Is well that and
the old Munsters.
Car 54
Yeah,
were
Car
yeah.
54, of course, too.
I
Yeah,
mean, he and Fred Gwynn had a very, very
yeah,
long
right.
standing
Working
friendship.
relationship,
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah,
they were very, very good
yep,
friends, and
yep.
um, that was
Car 54, pretty good show, I got to say. It
Car
wasn't on the air very
54,
long. Not
where
bad.
are
Yeah, not
you?
bad at all. I don't know if it's on one of those channels
Maybe
that
on. I
broadcast that
mean,
old stuff.
I think if you might be able to find them on YouTube. There's a holdup in the Bronx, Brooklyn
Something like
broken
that. Yeah.
out in fights. There's a traffic jam in Harlem that's backed up to Jackson Heights. There's a scout troop short at Child crew stiffs. Stood at Idlewild. Car 54, where are you?
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much. Good show.
I
Good
think
show.
JFK used to be called Idlewild Airport.
Ah, it could have been. It could have
Yeah,
been. Yep. Yep. Yeah, because it's out that way.
yeah.
That's the neck of the woods, basically. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Never thought about it that way,
But
but
what
yeah.
I just love is the concept of the traffic jam from Harlem to back Jackson Heights,
Yep.
Queens. I mean, that's one hell of a traffic jam if it's going all the way from uptown Manhattan into Queens,
Yeah.
or is that
Pretty
Brooklyn?
much across the 59th Street Bridge
Yeah,
right there. Yeah. So a
that
little
would mean
Simon
that would
Garfunkel show.
actually mean that 125th Street was jammed all the way back to Second Avenue, and then Second Avenue was all jammed up to 59th Street, and then the bridge
Yeah.
was all jammed up.
Yeah, the old bridge. Man.
Slow
Oh,
down.
yes.
Yeah,
Getting all the New York City neighborhoods here, but yeah,
yeah,
love it, love it,
yeah.
love it. Can't
And
beat it. It's like watching the new one now. What is it? With
Brooklyn
oh shoot,
911.
no, the older one there with the Broadway actor that played a cop. What's his name? The tall guy. Uh,
Oh, oh,
NYPD. Is that it?
no, no,
No,
no.
no.
That was Law and Order.
Law and Order. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Law and Order. Yeah, it's like watching those because they all mention the neighborhoods. It's really great to see what neighborhood they're in at that particular time.
But they also shoot in those neighborhoods too.
They do. They do. Yeah, exactly right. I
Every
mean,
actor,
yeah,
almost, I can guarantee you, virtually every actor in New York has appeared one way or another on Law and Order.
Law and Order. Yeah,
Yeah.
because they got to get these
Well, I appeared
casted.
in one as
Somehow.
background, as actually defending
Yeah,
protecting and defending the second assistant director from a pillow fight.
there
It
you
was
go.
because he was standing right next to me. This was the episode with Mo Rocca and Robin Williams, and
Oh,
they
okay.
recreated the Union Square pillow fight in Bryant Park, and then they recreated the Grand Central Freeze as another scene, and
Well, that show is so well produced.
it's
It's
extreme. All of them are
scary.
extremely well produced
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they take news stories as their jumping off point.
Right, right. It's right out of the
So
papers,
so so their
newspapers.
so their
Yeah,
stories are grounded in reality,
yeah.
which makes them
Fresh.
at
Yeah,
times really really difficult to watch.
yeah. Because I mean, you are watching reality right there on TV. But just the fact that
Broadway's lousy
they're
theater.
shooting this live in New York City. I mean, I don't know how they do it. Really, I don't know
They
how they
got their
pull it up.
sets down at Chelsea Piers, and then they just block off streets as they need them.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's just amazing stuff. Great show. Great show.
Yeah.
And just to look up the neighborhood as you're watching the
Orbach.
show, you sit that
Harry
maybe
Orbach is the
Google.
name of the actor. He created the role of El Gallo in The Fantastics. He was a song and dance man
Yep, yep.
and a good actor.
It's well done. It's one of the just great cop shows of all time, no question about it.
What was Hill Street Blues? I think was another really
Yeah,
great cop
another good one.
show.
Yep.
And there were some actually good cop shows filmed in other cities. There was M Squad, which was shot in Chicago, filmed in Chicago with Lee Marvin.
Yep. Life
There,
on the Streets in Baltimore. course.
There was uh, um, Streets of San Francisco. Then there was an earlier San Francisco cop drama, and it was something San Francisco, and I can't remember the entire name of
Yep.
it, but that was
Yep.
yeah. So
Yeah, they're out there. Just to see the neighborhoods is just pretty
yeah,
good. That's all. Because I generally, I'm a map guy anyway, so I generally
yeah.
hit Google and say, okay, where the hell is this neighborhood? And there it is, comes right up, boom. So you can see where it is compared to
The
whatever that you
original
do for it.
Dragnet and all the
Yes,
cop
absolutely.
shows
Yeah,
that
just kind of started the whole thing rolling.
Jack
Yeah.
Webb put together. Well, actually,
Yep.
Jack Webb was the first ripped from the headline sort of show, because those were actually based on case files.
Right.
The original Divorce Court was actually restagings of actual divorce trials,
Ah.
where they used the transcript from the court trials and restaged them, and
Right.
which I thought was great. Now there's this other divorce court, which is basically couples counseling, which is really interesting. Listening to the judge listen to these things and just shaking her head in like disbelief over some of the nonsense that she hears.
Right.
You know, I don't know how um, she is able to grant divorces because it's a mediation court. All of these court shows are mediation courts, rather than the small claims that the judges all act as mediators.
Right.
Because if it was
Judge
not
Judy.
Judge Judy, Milian, Judge Faith, all of them, because if these were
Yeah.
real courts, those people wouldn't be opening their yaps and talking over and talking back to the judge.
Oh no, 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 no. Yeah, no question about that. Yeah. Yeah, it's TV. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm sure it's a TV set, not an actual courtroom. So
it
yeah,
is a set.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
TV set, but the bailiffs are actual bailiffs.
yep. There you go.
So, and the judges are actually judges. Like Judge
Okay. Yep.
Milian was serving as a judge in Florida, but when she got the show, she had to give up her position in Florida because you know to do mediation, to do
Right.
the mediation thing, and that's what all of these judges do is that they're doing mediation
Ah. Okay.
rather than just sitting there and saying um, that goes back to Judge Wapner and all of that. But I would like to see them bring back the original divorce court where you got to sit there and actually sit through and actually watch the divorce trials.
Ah. Okay.
Because witnesses would be called, and this whole thing would you'd all see it all play out um, in a drama fashion. But you'd see
Yeah.
and they'd whittle the transcripts down for time, and then you'd have the narrator talking very softly in a golf
Yeah.
whisper. But
Yeah. The golf thing. Yeah.
all of these mediation shows are based off of the original divorce court
How about that?
because
Yeah.
they've got the narrator with the stupid little puns, and
Yep.
some of them are like really reaching for it, they're really stretching. So
Hell yeah. I'm looking. I want to see that new O.J. Simpson trial movie that's out. I don't know if it's on TV or
it's
I don't
on,
know what.
yeah, it's on.
So I'll have to go look for it on YouTube or one of those, I guess.
No, it's on. Where's it on?
That might be interesting.
Well, there's now some. The Inquirer came out with it, but there's now speculation that the Louis Vuitton case that Simpson gave to Kardashian, who may have contained the murder weapon.
Okay.
Which is interesting. It's now in the possession of Kim Jenner. Uh, um,
Yep.
you know,
Okay. Kardashian fame
the ex
of yeah
wife,
Bruce. Yeah.
Kardashian Jenner, which means if it's now in her possession, if it's in the Kardashian Jenner possession, couldn't the cops claim it?
Yeah, they probably could, but it's probably long gone at this point. I would think. I don't think they would hang on to that. Maybe, but I doubt it. Unless I don't know. Maybe the
Well,
souvenir. I don't know.
the rumor is it's still in the family possession.
Okay. All right.
So, but then again, it doesn't make any difference because if Simpson gave it to him, that would be an obstruction.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least prove it's not in there.
Right.
You
I don't
know,
know. That was one of the things for the defense that they couldn't come up with, and kind of
well,
hurt them a little bit.
everybody's going saying, oh yeah, of course the gloves didn't fit. He was wearing, late surgical gloves. But I was looking. But if you look at those gloves, they're not. They're small to begin with.
Right.
Leather gloves don't shrink that much.
They shrink when they're wet, but they don't shrink a lot. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
They will shrink around your hands if they
Yeah.
try. But if you take a
Yeah.
look, those gloves weren't were too small for him to begin with.
Yeah. I don't know where they
So
got the gloves from, but
they were
they
gloves
could have
found at
been
the
his
scene.
gloves.
I keep saying, I there are arguments for and against his being guilty.
Right.
I look at the arguments against his being guilty.
Right.
One, the when the police talk to the kids, and the boy and the son said, I heard mommy arguing with a man.
Yeah.
Never said daddy,
Right.
which is why he didn't get put on the trial
Right.
on the
On the
witness
stand.
stand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Number two, consi- um, yes, Simpson was shown several years earlier by a SEAL how to kill somebody Navy SEAL style.
Yeah.
That doesn't really mean that he would still remember how to do it and be able to
Right.
execute it, especially, and then, be able to get away and get into a car and drive away wearing clothes that had so much blood on them. The only blood found in the car was on the door jamb.
Right.
There wasn't enough blood in that car for him, you know. There wasn't enough,
Yeah. To
Again, he
directly
parked the
accuse,
car.
I
I
guess.
mean,
Yeah.
these are the things that bother me
Yeah.
about
I
this
mean,
whole
there's a lot
thing.
of
About the
inconsistencies.
thing.
There's no question about
Number
it.
one,
Yeah.
the Bronco being parked on the street. How the fuck if he was driving the Bronco, the white
Yeah.
Bronco, the night of the murder, how could he be driving the white Bronco when he was going to fucking kill himself?
Indeed.
Okay? That car was fucking impounded. Number two, his knees were shot. He couldn't have climbed over the wall into his house.
Oh no, no way. Yeah, his
He
knees
could,
were shot. Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
That'd be like me trying to do
see,
that. Yeah.
I'm still puzzled as to why, if Simpson did it, why he didn't park the car, drive the car into his um, driveway. He
Yeah.
could have told Kaylin that I had an errand to run. Surely Kaylin heard the car leaving.
Right. Right.
Again, there was so those two things make no sense whatsoever to me. It's his house. He wouldn't have had to climb over the fence. And you can't tell me that nobody saw anybody, nobody's dog was barking, or he didn't have any lights.
Right.
You know, um,
Security lights or whatever. Yeah.
and the mere fact the car was parked on the street meant the police did not need a warrant to search it. It was on public property.
Right. Right.
Um, Number two, Martin Furman was my biggest problem with OJ being guilty. He was lead detective until they said robbery homicide has more resources. We're going to give it to robbery homicide, and he no longer became the lead detective on that.
Right.
So he was nose out of joint.
Yep. He was. No question.
So that
He
led
was still
to,
on all the TV shows
well, what
at the day.
see,
At the
but
day. At the
you
day.
see, because the blood on the door jamb was found after the car was impounded, is what led everybody to believe it was planted. However, on the witness stand, and the defense never pursued this, which bothered me as well, is that Furman gets asked, about blood on the door jamb, and he said, "Yes, I found blood on the door. Yes, I found
Yeah.
blood." He was
Right.
then asked if he told the criminalist on the scene about what he found, and Furman's response was, "No, it wasn't my investigation." And Furman was never
Okay.
brought up with,
Yeah.
you know, right then and
Right.
there. As far as I was concerned, it didn't matter if Simpson did it or not.
Right.
Right there, you know,
Except that he looked like he was trying to plant some evidence before that. Prior to that, I think he was kind of
but
accused of that at least. But
no,
I
that
don't
was
know.
on another case.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was really surprised that the defense didn't go after him on that little nose that nose out of joint hissy fit.
Yeah. Well, the
because they
prosecution
could
was
have
having
played
so
some.
much
Because
trouble anyway. I just think they
well,
let him,
no, what they could
go
have
that way.
done is played on that so much that the jury would have believed would have felt that the blood was planted afterwards at an impound. Again, there wasn't enough. If he's putting bloody stuff, if you've just cut up two people and it's and everybody's thing is covered in blood, you're going to be covered in blood as well. And yet there was no blood. There was no soaking. Nothing
Right.
was found. So either the Bronco wasn't the car used for the murder, and Simpson did it, or Simpson arrived after the murder.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of inconsistencies. So I mean, that's why there's room for doubt, and I think that's why he got off.
You know,
Really.
well, the prosecution didn't prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt.
No, they did not. No, not at all.
And again, uh, when you look at the size of his hands and the size of those gloves, leather gloves don't shrink. Expensive leather gloves
Right.
do not shrink up like that.
No. So yeah, I mean, there was a lot. There was a lot there that you got to shake your head at. But mostly the prosecution didn't make their case,
They did it because
and that's how he got off. Yeah.
and Kardashian, and they're saying, there just wasn't enough blood found in that car for me to say he did it.
It seems like
He
the
probably
prosecution was making a mistake about once a week at least. There was a big
well,
gaffe, you know,
well, you can blame the
and
police department.
what do you call?
You can blame Furman and homicide on that. As
Yeah,
far as I'm concerned,
yeah,
I fully believe that Furman and homicide was so pissed off about having this major case taken from them because they had fewer resources than robbery homicide, which in LA is a huge division
yeah. I
department.
bet it is. Yep, yep.
That they weren't going to help anybody in that department.
Right.
You know, I would wager if you went back and looked at that evidence, you would find all sorts of obstruction from Furman and his people. And Furman's a fucking hero.
Yep.
But
Yeah,
then,
pretty much. I mean, he's still welcome on a lot of TV shows even today and certain things like that. But yeah, just crazy stuff. I mean, you saw him on the tube every week on something that you go, "What the hell is this guy doing on the tube?" But anyway, there was a
but
boggy process.
you know, the only
I mean, the
person who
prosecution
really
did everything they
the
could
only
to
person who
lose that
actually
case.
knows whether or not he did it is AC Cowling.
Ah, there you go. Yeah, there's got to be somebody that has a clue.
Cato Kalin believes he did it, but you might know something. I think Kalin may have done it.
He might have. Yeah, he might have.
How convenient that
He had opportunity. I don't know if he had any motive or anything like
he
that, but
might
he
have
had
been
opportunity.
dealing. You don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Hard to say. Man, it was just. It was a great story,
I
except
look
for
at
the
it
two
this way.
deaths, of
I
course.
look at
But
it this way. The intended victim was Nicole Simpson.
yeah,
The only reason Ron Goldman died was because he interrupted the murder.
right, right. He came by to drop something off, and
Her
bingo.
glasses.
Yeah, right.
He
Yep,
was, she had just returned. She had left her glasses at the restaurant that he worked at,
right,
and they tried to make it. Oh, he was her friend. No, he knew her. But they
right,
weren't. I mean, they tried to make the relationship more than it was, so it would sound like Simpson killed her in a jealous rage.
right. Yeah, which that wasn't there. Yeah, not proven. Like a lot of things, it wasn't proven. So yeah.
A
So
lot of shit wasn't proven.
right,
He was
exactly.
found not guilty. Yes,
Prosecution just
he was found not guilty. He was found guilty in a wrongful death suit. Not guilty, but he lost the wrongful death suit, which
right.
impoverished him.
Exactly,
They
exactly.
took everything from him.
They did, no question.
You know,
Found not guilty, but still left with nothing, pretty much.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, the Goldmans sued him for wrongful. He was sued for
yeah.
wrongful death.
And they won it, I guess. So
Yeah, they won a major judgment against him.
yeah. So I mean, that did it right there.
But actually, what they did is they impoverished his children.
Yes, no question. I mean, he was already
You know,
uh,
um,
he was capable of taking care of himself regardless. But the kids, yeah, hurt the kids big time.
But this whole thing about Navy SEALs, Navy SEALs. Well, the film that he was making at the time, he was a fucking pilot, and we've gone over this before regarding Simpson and whether or not he did it or not. Like I said, I don't really give a shit if he did it or not. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter because of Furman's obstruction.
right. Yeah, there was
And
a
I
lot
think,
there
and that's
too.
when the case as far as I'm concerned, fell apart. And the prosecution knew it fell apart because of Furman.
Right.
Because after his comment, everything else was tainted.
Yep. Pretty much.
Anyway,
417-777-1454 if you
and you're
want to.
listening to the
Okay.
Roundhouse Power Hour here on
Yes.
Netroots Radio and
We're gonna just redo the
Spreaker.com.
whole Simpson thing tonight because why not?
Yeah.
But it was an interesting case. I always liked it. I didn't tune in 24/7 like a lot of people did, but every day
Yeah.
you would catch up on something. That was
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. I mean,
It's one of those things that you got a 5 minute recap. Seems like every day that okay, here's where the prosecution fucked up again tonight, and yada yada. So so it was. I mean, you could see this thing unfolding and
well,
say, man,
everybody
there's
was
no
saying,
way in hell.
oh, Judge Edel, it became a bigger media circus. It was a
Yeah,
bigger media circus
hell yeah,
than Michael Jackson's trial. And it was the first time cameras had been in a courtroom, so nobody knew what the hell they were doing.
right.
Um, oh, they were all playing for the cameras. I doubt that very much.
No, I don't think so. I don't.
What we saw
I
on the
don't believe that.
prosecution side, on the state side, and
Right.
the judge was complete discomfort with having the cameras in
Cameras.
the courtroom.
Yeah.
Johnny,
One
the
had.
defense, on the other hand, ate it up.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Cochran played to the cameras.
Yes, he did.
I seriously doubt if the trial had been televised, he would have said if the glove doesn't fit you, would have done that bullshit, would have done the rhyming bullshit.
Yep.
That was pure television. And I wish True TV would go back to being court TV and showing trials, because that
Yeah. There you go. I mean, there's interesting stuff. There's no doubt about it. Yep.
And then after all the trials, they could go back to running all the same fucking shows over, every episode of, everything. Let's binge watch this. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I've come back into where I started watching Castle every year. This was the episode I remember, turning on when I first started binge watching it. Seriously, every TV station is showing the same shit in syndication. Because original programming is too fucking expensive.
Well, yeah, you've only got about 10 or 12 shows that are
Well, you've got
shown on the same
Dayline
cable
NBC,
channels.
and
Yeah.
then what happens is you've got a little introductory stuff, and it shows up on Investigation ID.
Yeah.
I've taken to watching the Science Channel because that shit's great. What on Earth has some great stuff, science-based stuff, and it's aliens and stuff, all the marvels that pre-Columbian cultures could have such high civilizations without all this. It's like,
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's good stuff.
yeah,
The Science Channel is one of the only good things out there. Basically, History Channel once in a while.
yeah.
But most everything is NYPD or whatever it is.
Cops, spiked
Yeah.
cops.
Yeah.
It's like 24. It's like, yeah, I got cable, but I have to like flip through.
Yeah, it's Law and Order's on like 4 or 5 cable channels, and then
channels, and then
NCIS or
then
whatever's
you've
on
got
a couple.
well, NCIS runs almost all the time
Yeah.
on USA. Then you got TV.
Yeah. So I mean,
Syndication. There's like, this is why Netflix and Amazon Prime are so freaking popular. They're doing new television.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, there's a cop show on
you
at
can
least
still
every hour.
binge watch it, but it's
Yeah. Pretty much.
I watch Crackle because it's got some good anime on it. I just wish there would be an Crackle app for my Samsung TV. And now the Samsung smart TVs, the ones that you can say, "Hey Google," and search for me. They now, because you have to have the microphone on all the time to use voice commands, it listens to you. Are you that
Yes.
surprised that that they're now telling you it listens to you all? It's like, yeah. Anytime you're using something voice activated, It's going to be continually listening to you. At
Hell yeah.
least with
Oh yeah.
Siri on my iPhone and my iPad, it doesn't activate until I say say hey Siri, and then it will tune in. But with like Cortana with Windows 10, it's always listening. So if you say something, you'll see it pop up, and it's like turn the damn thing off when you don't need it.
Right. Right. Otherwise, it'll always be listening in.
Well, Samsung's not the first TV that listens to you. Vizio TVs listen to you, and they don't tell you that it's
Yeah, you're on camera pretty much,
no, you're on
or at
third.
least on audio, at
Well,
least. Yeah.
it's like third party can hear you. Well, what are they listening for? Search.
Yeah, I don't know.
There should be specific
Unless the
commands.
TV's in the bedroom, maybe they're looking for some of that action.
Well,
I don't
no,
know.
no, no.
You know.
It boils down to when you need um, to use voice search, there should be a specific command like "Hey Google." Until then, Google search doesn't come out on. It's listening for that phrase.
Yeah,
It's
there
not
you go.
listening to what you're saying.
Right.
Cortana, on the other hand, and these other TVs, they're listening to you all the time.
Right.
And Cortana can be a real issue for people whose businesses require confidentiality, like doctors, lawyers,
Oh yeah.
brokers.
Yeah. All of
I've had a show. As soon as I find out I'm a rep for a major computer manufacturer, and I work part time um, on weekends representing this particular brand. And when I actually had a lawyer ask me about turning Cortana off, so I had to go and look at that because if it's
Yep.
always listening, he was concerned about the lawyer client confident privilege.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I went in, you know I know how to show doctors, dentists, lawyers, and others who need that confidentiality how to turn Cortana off.
Right. Yeah. I don't even know if you can do that with Siri. Maybe.
But Siri does. But you have to give Siri a specific voice command to activate
Right.
it.
True. True.
It's not all. It doesn't pop up. Listen to every word you're saying, and then pop up. It might, depending if it's like a background noise or something, because I've had Siri activate, but it's not there listening to me. Um,
Right. Yeah, I might pick something off the TV or something and figure this. You're looking for something or whatever.
yeah,
But yeah.
but that's about it.
Yeah. So get the iPhone and yeah, I'm gonna worry about that.
Well,
That's it.
if you're into having just make sure that the well, no, you just need to make sure that the voice commands
Yeah.
for the specific uh, voice search are specific to
Device, I guess. Yeah.
to your needs, that it's not going to like be listening to you all the time.
Right.
Um, I mean, it's going to be listening to, but it's not going to start searching. I mean, at certain points, as soon as I'm demonstrating, something in Windows 10, and suddenly Cortana will pop up and say, "Hey, let's continue where we left off."
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think so. Yeah. Uh,
That means it's listen.
right. It's listening. Yeah.
I mean, when Cortana works, it's really great.
Yep. Yeah. They're about 7 8 years away from this thing working really the way they wanted to. That's for sure. I mean, it's nice. We got at least started at least where we're got this voice prompts and voice activation nonsense, but it's not really that. It's not there yet. It's
Well,
still
the thing is about voice
getting
search.
close, but it's not there
Well,
yet.
voice search is good, but in certain other things, but it's not going to, going to make it easier because instead of having on a tablet or a phone, having to type what you're searching for, being able to ask, you know, you
Yeah.
can dictate, your text messages, um, and that makes it easier for you to get work done on your tablets.
Ah.
You know, um,
Ricky says her Samsung needs a specific command to
exactly.
activate that. Yeah, there you go.
You know, Google Voice "Hey Google,"
Yeah.
it's like,
Search for this or whatever. Yeah.
well, you activate, you get the voice search attention by saying, "Hey," by calling out to it like you're calling out to a friend.
Right. Right.
You know.
Well, anytime I search on my phone, the phone comes back with search a wider area because you live in no man's land. So forget about it.
Yeah. Well, hey,
Try another 50 miles out there. You might get something. Get a hit.
it happens. You know.
But yeah, so I get that a lot. So I don't. I basically I don't bother at this point. looking for stuff because I know whatever I'm looking for is about 100 miles away for Christ's
Yeah.
sake. But anyway, 417
Five
1454.
four.
There you
Skype us
go.
at
That's how to do that. Jump on
netroots.radio.
here.
Call
Uh,
us. Shut
OJ,
us
we're
up.
talking OJ. We're talking cell phones, of course. No
Yes,
tech.
and the Maller. Um, the best thing about listening to the ending of the occupation by the militants
Yeah,
was, even though David Fry has psychological issues, very very evident in listening to him. He was actually the sanest one there.
yeah, which is
I was
pretty
listening
sad.
to this, and um, attention whores, Franklin Graham and Michelle Fior went there to try and talk him down. And listening to these people, he was like the last one to come out.
Right.
And you could hear, and they were actually trying to get him to do something stupid to get killed.
Yeah, egging them on or
Because
whatever.
you
Yeah.
know they would he would calm down and get ready, and suddenly one of these idiots would break into the onto the break in and start you know jacking him up again.
Yeah, show the signs or whatever,
you
flash
know
the signs or whatever. Yeah,
and finally, and they're quoting scripture at him, this, that, and the other, and finally just shut them up by saying he was a messianic Jew,
there you go.
family Baptist. But they shut him up,
Yeah.
and he finally said he would come out if somebody said hallelujah.
Ah, there you go.
And now I heard originally that it was the FBI guy who said it to get him to come out, to surrender and come out. And I was hearing, oh no, the others all said it, but you know, I think it was the FBI guy, because I
Right.
don't think the others were going to do that, because they wanted him. They wanted this guy to go up in flames,
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
because Finnecum's, you know, they're trying to get it out that he was
Well,
shot
they
by the
wanted another
FBI.
Waco or something. Something not quite as
Well,
dramatic as
they
that, but
wanted the mentally ill guy to be killed.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you
So
know,
they can blame it on the government or whatever, and yeah,
you know. Well, they're
you know,
trying. Well,
that's all that.
it was an Oregon sheriff's, that deputy or somebody, that shot Lavoy Finicum, and now they're trying to get passed through the Oregon House a bill that would protect the identity of cops who shoot civilians, because they've been the militants have been threatening to come after the cop who killed Finicum.
Yeah, always something. Yes. Yeah.
And oh, more fun. The Koch brothers are involved in this too.
Yeah, I did hear that. I read about it somewhere. It might have been on a coast or something, but yeah, they
Yeah.
were talking about the Koch brothers were involved in the whole incident, I guess, and I don't know, trying to get involved in it more, I guess, even more deeply than they were. So I don't know. It's just part of the Koch bros' overall strategy to
Yeah.
overthrow the government, I guess, without
Well, no,
firing
they're
shots.
no, they're supporting the Bundys because they want to be able to privatize public lands.
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
You also have these assholes coming in front into Burns and Harney County, claiming to represent the people of Harney County. Bullshit, little Eva. You're saying go the fuck home.
Indeed.
Go home. See,
Yeah,
now
we've had
my
enough of
big
this
thing
nonsense.
is that what I'm really curious about is how tight the security is going to be around the courthouses in Portland and in Nevada.
Yeah,
I mean, everybody was whining that things weren't done sooner, but the FBI has major cases against these
they
guys.
do.
I mean,
They played it very well.
they've got them
Played it very
on
well.
federal conspiracy charges. That and the fact that when they came out, they said, "Hey, we left booby traps." They've got them in all sorts of shit.
Yeah, yeah. FBI played it well. If it was me, I'd have said I would have been in there the second day and say,
But
okay, you guys
but
can come
that's
with
what they
us.
no, but that's what they
Then there would have been all kinds
wanted.
of freaking. Yeah,
They
I know. Yeah,
wanted they
yeah.
wanted
They wanted the confrontation.
yeah, they wanted the confrontation, the same thing as they wanted um, out at the Bundy Ranch. And while say what you will, I think the BLM did what they could because they were told flat out, "Hey, we're going to put our women and children in front of us. If you
Yeah,
when you start shooting, the world will see you shooting women and children."
yeah. No, the administration played it well. The FBI did a great job. You know,
And
yeah,
the
no
president
question.
keeping everybody in the you know
Yeah, keeping everybody
but
heads up. That's all.
I hear a lot of people saying treason, treason, treason. No, treason is very, very deliberately, narrowly defined in the Constitution.
Yeah, it
The
is. And
founding
this was not
fathers,
it.
the
Yeah,
framers of the Constitution, were very, very careful to narrowly define what constituted treason. What
there you
these
go.
guys are doing is sedition. Then you've got a staff sergeant in the National Guard who is fomenting sedition in the ranks by supporting these assholes. Who's openly supported these people.
Oh yeah,
And
NRA, the whole bunch.
no, not the NRA. The last thing the NRA wants is something like this to happen, quite
Right.
seriously, because
Yeah.
then you will actually see everybody coming down.
Oh yeah.
And there was
If they'd
actually
have
a
taken
very
sides on this,
interesting
it'd been yeah.
blog post. I can't remember who gave his blog over, but he gave it over to a gun dealer, and he said he has no problem with background checks. Most of the people don't have problems with background checks. People buying the guns, all the guns up, are just people that are the same people buying guns, who are is a small percentage of people that are buying up the guns.
Right.
Because but the vast majority of the members of the NRA support background checks. And they're and I get the feeling that the membership of the NRA is very, very frustrated that they are not being listened to.
Yeah, by their own. Yeah.
And this whole thing about Bernie Sanders kept his seat in office because he listened to his constituents. And yes, he made some great mistakes, like I guess the Brady bill, and the thing about the holding the manufacturers accountable, because the bill would also have made done to the gun dealers what has been done with bars, and that's make them responsible.
Right.
You sold the gun, you're responsible. You can be sued as well, where because they don't know what somebody is going to do with a gun.
Right.
They're not going to know if that gun got stolen, or if the person who shoots it, owned it and he was drunk.
Well, that's it. Bernie lives within 100 miles of these manufacturers.
No, but he lives
there's
in a
two or
small.
three in.
Well, no,
in
but he
New England.
lives in a state where people hunt.
Yeah.
And when was the last time you heard anybody in Vermont accidentally shooting somebody? The way you've heard everywhere else.
Right. Oh, no question. Totally different crowd. Yeah.
He voted against that bill because it would have, put a terrible onus on the dealers.
Right. Which it would, yeah, no doubt it would.
But if you've not, but the
like
other
I say,
thing
lives
is
nearby.
but because a bartender can control the amount of alcohol a customer drinks. He's got the right to cut them off.
Yes.
He can tell somebody who walks into his bar, "I am not serving you," because the last person to serve that drink become liable if that person,
yes.
That is an understandable thing, and you can trace back to where that person was. Again, just because I sold you a gun and then you go off and do something stupid, why should I be responsible for your act of stupidity? You
right.
pass the background checks. I have no reason to not doubt that you're responsible because you've got a clean record.
Right.
As far as I know, you're not mentally ill. So I don't have that. But the biggest thing that has happened is the fact that it's been decided that you don't need any training in gun safety to own a gun anymore. That is why you're seeing so many, accidental shootings. Children are not being taught that guns are not toys.
Right.
My brother and I had cat pistols, and we played with them. We played with cat guns and all of that. But God, if we pointed it at somebody, we got holy hell for that.
Right.
Even though it was a toy gun, we were still told don't point it.
Yep. Indeed. Same here. Yep. Same deal.
So even though my brother and I don't own firearms, we were still taught gun safety. You don't fucking point a gun at somebody, even if it's a game, if toy gun, unless it's a squirt gun. But
Yeah.
you don't point anything that a cat gun at somebody. But even now, you can't point a squirt gun at somebody because they'll pull a real gun and shoot you.
Yep.
And there's all this nonsense about you guys aren't old enough, but back in the 80s and 90s, young men were getting shot over their jackets or their shoes.
Yes.
Back in California, there's this young man, teenager, got shot for his 8-ball jacket, and I think it was like somebody's shooting you for a jacket.
Hell yeah.
What the fuck?
Yep. Back in the day, they did. 25 years ago.
Back in the 20th century, they did that.
Yeah.
And it's like,
not that long ago.
It's nuts. I'm just an old cranky human being.
Yeah. That's all.
Yeah. But it's amazing. Everybody left and right talks about personal responsibility and being responsible, yet on both sides I don't see a lot of people taking responsibility for their actions. If people took responsibility for their actions, you wouldn't hear all this bullshit about white privilege. White privilege to me boils down to means never having to say I am sorry and I am responsible for fucking up.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much the definition right there, yeah.
To me, that is white
Yeah,
privilege.
pardon me for being white, but I'm still white and you're not.
No, it's a fucking accident of birth.
Yeah.
You have no control over your genetics.
There you go.
Your parentage. And unless your family, was it Stephen Colbert is like the whitest person, what's his name? The guy doing the Finding Your Roots on PBS.
Okay,
ever met, because there was it was all European.
Right.
I mean, there was nothing from the Middle East or
no African, no
North
Middle East,
African or Sub-Saharan African,
Eastern Europe or whatever.
Yeah,
it's all
he was like all
Europe.
Irish.
Yeah,
all English Irish, maybe a little
there you
French.
Go. Yep.
But nothing else.
There you go. So yeah, to get any more whiter than that, I don't know. You just you got to be
scanned. Albino.
Yes, I don't know. Yeah, something like that.
Albino.
Yeah. So and of course Colbert is always a good time.
Oh my God, when the Bernie sandwiches. Bernie sandwich.
Yeah.
That bit was so funny. He just started doing sandwich puns. It's a brilliant. It's a brilliant bit. You guys got to see it. He's got. I mean, I think the Late Show has opened his twisted sense of political humor up even more.
Could be.
It's because he doesn't have to play that character anymore. It's more open. He is really good with interviews. His interview with DeRay, can't remember his last name, but he is now running for mayor of Baltimore, was awesome. At one point, he and DeRay switched seats, put DeRay in his chair behind the desk,
Yep.
and they
Yep.
sat and discussed things. And it's just an amazing thing
I knew it'd be a
just
pretty good
to
move.
watch.
It's
You know,
just going to take.
it's a complete throwback to the talk shows that I wasn't old enough to stay up and watch,
Yeah,
like Dick Cavett,
Dick Cavett. Yeah, it's kind of that kind of show.
Dick Cavett, Johnny Carson.
Yeah. Yeah.
He gets a good mix of guests on, some great interviews. Um, the Biden interview is still probably one of the most amazing interviews ever, where he just would
Good stuff.
just
Yeah.
sat back and let
Oh, he
Vice
can do it.
President
Colbert
Vice
can do it very,
President
very
Biden
much.
speak.
You know, he's
Um,
got the chops for it.
you know, he
Yeah, he's
knows how
good
to
at it.
he knows how to listen.
I know he's only going to have a audience like Dave had, David, but because he's not going to go, he's not going to have the audience that Leno had
Oh
because
no,
it's a
he's got a far
different
different.
show.
He's got a savvier audience.
Yeah, much
Quite
much more.
seriously, he's got a
Yeah,
savvy audience.
no question.
Leno
So
really didn't
it's
have
going to be
anybody
smaller,
of great depth on his show. And
right?
Colbert's success is, and it's the success that Letterman had, and
Yeah,
Cavett had, and Carson,
yeah.
is that he had an array of guests on, from the frivolous to very serious.
Dick
And
Cavett
Will
show
Ferrell
should be
came on to
replayed
talk
today.
about. Will
I think it
Ferrell
would
came
still
on
stand
to
up today for a lot of times.
Will
A lot of
Ferrell
it.
came on to plug Zoolander too, and he came out dressed like fucking Jack Hanna,
Yeah, there
and
you go.
had like little farm animals and pets, and describing
Yep.
them as different animals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Brings out a duck and calls it something else. It's just
right.
and Colbert could, and this was the live show. Colbert couldn't deal with it. He was like busting up, and they were
Yeah,
obviously rehearsed it. They knew what he was going to
yeah.
do,
Oh yeah,
but he couldn't keep a straight face through it.
right.
It was a brilliant piece of live television, and it
Without a
was
doubt.
just
Yeah.
something you were waiting to see. Because Letterman always had Jack Hanna on with his with his
Oh yeah.
animals,
Oh yeah.
and Will Ferrell just totally just killed it.
Yeah.
Some
Hit it out of the
great,
park.
and he's got John Batiste and Stay Human's brilliant band. Batiste is an incredibly talented musician.
Good stuff.
Incredibly talented musician. And he also has a wide range of performers, people pimping their albums and stuff.
Yep.
So
Yep.
he's got what he's doing is just, and he's having fun, and you can tell.
It's awesome.
You can tell.
He's in a good spot. No doubt about it.
Great spot. And also the fact that he kept his crew together.
Yeah.
Everybody from the rapport came with him because he asked them to come.
Right. We've got about 30 seconds.
Go. Yay!
We got to
And
get out of here.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Yes, and it's also
Saint Valentine died for your right to marry, Christians.
Yes, and it's also, of course, our 5th anniversary tomorrow. So happy 5th anniversary! I guess we'll do that
Yay!
too. But so we kick out the 6th year tomorrow. I guess we've been through 5 of them. We'll kick out number 6 tomorrow. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. We got to get out of here.
Have a good night, everybody.
With that, we're out.